Does the proverb, "when in Rome, do as the Romans do," still applicable in modern society? Probably an unpopular opinion, but I think it's ignorant to expect your adopted home to bend to your every will and put your needs and customs above their own. There's a give and a take with everything. People deserve to have their views respected and, where possible, their needs met. But this sort of thing only creates resentment and a sense of us versus them. You don't have to adopt every cultural custom if you move to a new country, but you equally can't expect them to accommodate all of your customs either. I mean, you can't really expect a whole country to change their practices, traditions just because it fits your beliefs or lifestyle. If you plan on moving to a different country, you should know ahead of time what to expect. If you don't like what they do in that country, then don't immigrate to that country. I can see the argument for both sides, but I feel Japan is entirely correct here. They are under no obligation to conform to other ethnic groups' customs and traditions. Of course, you are free to practice your beliefs in another country. But keep in mind you are in another country and they have their own traditions to adhere to. Will as a Muslim, there are 5 parts that you must do. The rest can be adjusted based on time and place, including burial. They have 3 options. 1. Buy a private land and do whatever you want there. Going through legal means. OFC, don't just dig a hole. Too many Muslim countries will receive the bodies and bury there, so you can do that. 3. Bury in Christian places if they allow it, since they follow similar practices. If all these options are not possible, then you are allowed to follow the way of the land. The most important part is to respect the people you are living with. Fully agree with the Japanese. If you don't like it, don't come here. I mean, I take it this way. If you want to stay in a hotel with a pool, book a hotel that has a pool. You can't possibly demand something at a place that doesn't provide that. Should I expect pork in a Muslim-owned restaurant? No. Simple. If I'm craving pork, I would simply look for a restaurant that serves pork. You made the decision to immigrate to a country that doesn't really provide for your religion. Might as well accept it. Assimilate, and if not, simply look for another country. I think this is on point. Japan is Japan. If you come to Japan, you choose Japan. And all that comes with it. You don't like the way things are done in Japan? Don't choose Japan. Plenty of Muslim countries that fit your cultural needs. Move there. That is true to any culture wanting to move and live in another, not just Muslims and Japan. If I want to go in a bikini in the streets all day and drink alcohol, I wouldn't move to Saudi Arabia and complain they don't change to accommodate my needs. Personally, I see the Japanese in the right on this one. Did Qatar change its traditions during World Cup? Absolutely no. They allowed no beer and made strict rules for their women. When Islamic countries do something to save their culture, people tell us to respect their belief, culture. But when countries like Japan or France do something to preserve their culture, you call it Islamophobia. If you are moving there, expect cultural shock. People will not bend according to you there. They are following customs since hundreds of years. They will not change it because some Mr. Abdul migrated to their country. The same way you don't go to Qatar and act like if you were in the US, West Europe. You don't go to Japan and act like you're in the Middle East or anywhere else. It's part of the experience of having a whole world of different versions of humans and culture. It's funny seeing so many responses in support of Japan, which I agree with, yet we don't apply the same logic to our own countries in the West and generally bend over backwards to accommodate external cultures. When moving to another country, it's really important to learn about the culture, laws, geography, history, etc. When you go somewhere, you're bringing your culture with you in a sense. But just because you're bringing it doesn't mean everyone there needs to change to fit. You're the odd one out. And while some things are definitely more morally questionable about particular places' culture, see LGBTQ rights, women's rights, child protections, etc., if your religion or culture says to do X, but the place you move to cannot accommodate that but instead offers Y, you have two choices. Either accept that your new home cannot accommodate that particular need, and plan accordingly, or don't move there. Asking an entire group of people to accommodate your particular needs is not fair to everyone else. As the foreigner, you have to meld in. Now, this does not excuse people being hostile towards immigrants. They should do their best to be welcoming. But if your first impression with new neighbors was them telling you to accommodate their particular needs over your own, they're kinda being entitled jerks. Single quote / And the reverse is true. Go to Muslim countries and you avenue to follow their practices. The answer for the Muslims in Japan is to ship the bodies to their homeland. If I die here in Asia, my body, ashes, will be going to Europe. I am here on the side of Japan. They have little effective usable space as it is. Why should they be plastered with pointless grave sites? I think you've missed the point of the phrase. It's not when in Rome, you must conform to the traditions of Romans. Rather, it's when in Rome, why not try and experience things authentically, even if that pushes you out your comfort zone? That said, if you choose to go to another country, it doesn't really make sense to complain that their customs are incompatible with yours. There's also a saying among Christians. Sometimes, to be a good Christian meant being a bad Roman. This doesn't just have to be about religion though. If you have to give up, sacrifice your identity to fit in the crowd and be part of the status quo, that's probably not a good thing. In this case, however, Japan SRSLY does not have the space necessary for ground burials. So yeah, I think Japan is in the right. Do you have the link? I'd like to read what they're saying. I genuinely think that before just moving somewhere, you should probably get on board with their culture, customs at least a little. Learn enough of the language to get by. And make sure you know the laws. You can retain your national, previous identity, of course. But you need to change the things you do and the things you say to fit your situation. Muslim immigrants complaining about the native customs is a common occurrence. Same thing in much of Europe. I think it should, but it doesn't. I think this is the age of privilege and entitlement where people fully expect empathy from strangers without ever offering any in return. It's insane to me that people actually seem to expect to travel to different countries and experience different cultures yet want everything to be the same. I firmly believe that if we leave our comfort zones, then it is our responsibility to find ways to assimilate into that new location, as it's not the people or country's responsibility to adjust to my needs. Countries and people shouldn't have to change their way of life to suit the people who chose to move there. We are seeing this a lot in Canada currently with our influx of immigrants over the past 5 years or do especially. I absolutely think new citizens are wonderful. It supports diversity and makes our country a little more interesting. At the same time, local butchers have been forced to change their practices due to the cultural requirements of a few. Many stores have been forced to change how they arrange and sell products. Some essential basic services are no longer easily available as they were deemed offensive. People are being heavily criticized for the way we live. It's causing a massive rift between newcomers and established citizens that's fueled by racism, prejudice and ignorance on both sides. By forced, I mean literal boycott lines and picketing. I'll never understand that level of entitlement to visit or move somewhere and expect people to go out of their way to make your life easier. It's insane that you can't criticize or question new beliefs while existing ones are picked apart, for fear you appear unwelcome or racist, or that level of privilege that assumes they should care more about you than you do about them. Japan is doing it right. Emo.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.